Okay, imagine this. A 14-year-old girl, Emily Pike. She's living on the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation. Loves art, thinking about college. Seems really connected to her family, especially her grandmother.
Right.
Now, picture this same girl. Because she reported a really serious crime, she gets placed in a group home over 100 miles away in Mesa, Arizona.
Hmm.
Just a totally different world from her support system.
Yeah, completely removed.
And then she disappears.
Hmm.
That striking contrast really sets the stage for our deep dive today. We're pulling apart the tragic timeline of Emily Pike's 2025 disappearance and killing.
And it's more than just the crime details, isn't it?
Exactly. It's not just a grim homicide report. It's an urgent look at the systems, tribal social services, the foster care system, law enforcement protocols that were supposed to protect her, but, they repeatedly failed.
Exactly. When you really analyze the source material, the news reports, the public records around this case, what comes out isn't just like a list of mistakes. It's a critical look at the gaps in policy.
Policy gaps, yeah.
The story of Emily Pike, it really illustrates the devastating consequences when these protective systems clash with a child's basic need for community, for emotional security.
Right.
So we're aiming to understand not just what happened, but kind of why the established procedures led to this really tragic outcome.
That's our mission then. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with her life, her background, and the initial reason, the catalyst for her removal to a place so far from home.
Well, Emily was clearly, a vulnerable young person, but she had dreams. Her mother, Steph Dosala, talks quite movingly about Emily's interest in art, her plans. And crucially, she was a resident of the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation. That placement, putting her in a group home in Mesa, that's putting a 14-year-old more than an hour-and-a-half drive away from everything she knew. Everything.
And the reason for this huge uprooting, it's actually shocking. In September 2023, she was placed in that Mesa group home by Tribal Social Services after she reported being sexually assaulted.
Yes. And this is where we see the first really deeply troubling failure point. It involves the complexity of jurisdictional response.
How so?
Well, when Emily reported the assault, police didn't come to investigate. Instead, tribal game and fish rangers showed up.
Game and fish rangers for a sexual assault report.
Exactly. The sources point to just a severe breakdown there.
Oh, right.
It suggests either tribal law enforcement didn't have the capacity or maybe the specific protocols. Well, whatever it was, it led to this grossly inadequate response.
So what happened with the case?
The case was subsequently dropped, no suspect arrested, and the immediate consequence for Emily, the victim, was her removal from her home, from her community.
So the system's first response to her being assaulted was essentially to treat her as the problem, remove her, send her 100 miles away, almost punishing her for reporting it.
It creates this tremendous irony, doesn't it? The goal of tribal social services was likely protection, a protective placement. But that very placement forced her into this geographical and emotional isolation. And when you factor in the cultural context, taking a Native American youth off her reservation community, putting her in a big city group home, you inherently create a massive rift.
A huge disconnect.
A huge one. And we also know her vulnerability wasn't like a one-time thing. Reports indicate that officers responded to a call about a suicide attempt in November 2023.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just months after her initial placement. The distress was clearly immediate and severe.
So that distance, that placement, it caused immediate documented distress. And this is where I think we really need to dig in. The system knew she was struggling because she had this clear history of running away, right?
That's right. 4 previous times before the final fatal incident.
4 times. This wasn't just, a kid trying to skip curfew. This was a repeated, desperate cry for help.
Absolutely. Those repeated attempts to flee, they are really the core of the systemic failure narrative here. I need to look at the specifics because they show the system getting clear signals and just failing to adapt, failing to listen.
Okay, let's look at 2 moments then. Back in September 2023, soon after she was first placed, on September 11th, she ran away with another child. They were found at a local park, Kleinman Park.
Right.
And they told the authorities who found them explicitly they did not want to go back to the group home. That's a direct rejection of the placement.
A very clear rejection. And then, just 9 days later, she ran away again.
Again?
And when officers found her that time, there's body camera footage. It actually captured her pleading with them. begging them not to take her back to Mesa.
What did she say she wanted?
She told them she wanted to be with her grandmother. It wasn't vague, you know? It was a clear statement of where her support was, where she felt safe, and the system was actively forcing her away from that.
This pattern, it just has to raise questions about the protocols of the group home, doesn't it?
Yeah, that.
I mean, if a child runs away once, okay, that's an issue. But 4 times, and repeatedly saying why she's distressed, she wants her grandmother. Shouldn't that automatically trigger some kind of mandatory review or an immediate effort to, I don't know, reconnect with family? What do the sources say about the group home's response to these signals?
Well, the sources reveal a really tragic lack of adaptive protocol. The response seems to have been purely custodial. Find the child, return the child. Find her, return her.
Just bring her back.
Yeah. It lacked that necessary therapeutic element or even an investigative one, like why is this happening repeatedly? An advocate, Anika Robinson, who worked with Emily, she noted that a key reason Emily kept fleeing was simply wanting, quote, a sense of some independence.
Independence?
Think about it. For a girl who reported a sexual assault was then basically institutionalized 100 miles away. Independence isn't just teenage rebellion, it's a longing for control. Control over her own safety, her own life.
So the system was just stuck in this awful cycle. Emily runs because the placement isn't working for her, it feels wrong, unsafe even.
Right.
The system finds her, returns her to that same unsuitable place, which just reinforces her distress.
And triggers the next attempt, exactly.
It's a failure to listen, compounded by that huge distance. She couldn't just walk home.
Precisely. You see this pattern emerging so clearly. The placement was, on paper, for safety, but the distance, the restrictive nature of the group home, it actually created a greater emotional risk, maybe even physical risk, compelling her to flee into unknown danger just trying to get home.
The system was prioritizing, what, institutional stability over her actual demonstrated welfare needs.
That seems to be the case. Yeah, institutional stability over the child's well-being.
Which leads us, tragically, to the final event, January 2025. Emily Pike was last seen leaving that Mesa group home, on foot, January 27th, 7:45 p.m.
Wearing a pink and gray shirt, the reports say.
Yeah. Authorities confirm there's video surveillance of her after she left, but they haven't released the location from that footage. And here is arguably the most critical operational failure in this whole timeline. Her case manager only informed her mother, Steph Dosala, that Emily was missing a full week later.
A week. That delay it's catastrophic in a missing persons case, especially involving a vulnerable minor, someone with a known history of running away.
7 days.
If you look at standard protocols, especially for kids known to be trying to get back to family, immediate notification is just essential. 7 days lost means 7 days when the initial search, calling the grandmother, alerting reservation authorities, could have been happening.
Right. Crucial time.
That gap, it significantly hampered any chance of finding her quickly, of immediate rescue or just locating her.
And the search.
Yeah.
It came to just a devastating end weeks later. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Hikers found human remains in contractor trash bags off Highway 60, more rural part of Arizona.
Yeah, and it wasn't until February 27th that the Gila County Sheriff's Office, the GSUO, confirmed the remains were Emily Pike's.
And the manner of death.
Now being investigated as a homicide. It reveals the terrible violence inflicted on her. The autopsy reports indicated she'd sustained significant face and head trauma.
And the details, they only get grimmer, don't they? Detectives reported they tragically couldn't find her arms and hands.
That level of trauma, the dismemberment, it points to a calculated effort to conceal identity, maybe destroy evidence.
It just underscores the severity of the crime and the immense vulnerability she faced after fleeing the very protective custody she was legally under.
It's the ultimate horrific consequence. The consequence of the system failing to listen, failing to respond to her earlier pleas for a safe placement, a placement she felt safe in.
So, turning to where the investigation stands, now it's still open. According to Emily's mother, Steph Dosala, at the time of the sources we're looking at, no arrests have been made in the killing.
Right.
But she did indicate that 3 potential suspects are, or were, being interrogated by law enforcement.
And the investigation itself has faced hurdles. The GSUO explicitly reported that sensitive, private information about the ongoing investigation got leaked, spread publicly on Facebook.
Oh, that's terrible for the case.
It really is. That kind of irresponsible sharing of details can jeopardize everything. Witness interviews, evidence integrity.
Yeah.
It ultimately hinders getting justice for Emily.
Meanwhile, there has been a powerful public response to this tragedy. On March 2nd, just weeks after her identity was confirmed,
Yeah.
foster care advocates gathered. They wrapped yellow ribbons on poles near where Emily was last seen leaving the group home.
A painful symbol.
Yeah, a symbol of mourning, but also activism, right?
Yeah.
Highlighting this broader question of how many kids are silently falling through the cracks in the system.
And when we synthesize everything, when we connect all these dots, the inadequacy of the initial sexual assault response, the removal 100 miles away, ignoring her repeated pleas to go back to family, that 7-day delay in reporting her missing, it paints a very clear picture.
A systemic failure.
Yes. The reporting around this case consistently brings up policy failure. We're not talking about, isolated mistakes here and there. We seem to be talking about systemic weaknesses, deficiencies in the protocols designed to safeguard children, especially those navigating that complex jurisdictional world of Native American youth in state care.
It's just a devastating sequence. For a young girl who wanted to be an artist, who just wanted to be with her family, she reports a crime.
Gets removed.
Tries repeatedly to flee back
Yeah.
to the people she trusts.
And isn't heard.
And ultimately, the failure to notify her mother immediately lets critical time just vanish,
Yeah.
leading to this tragic discovery, this homicide investigation.
This whole tragedy, it forces us to confront that inherent tension, doesn't it? Between what the system calls protective placement and a child's fundamental deep-seated desire for independence, for connection. When placement removes a child geographically, emotionally, from their core support, their community, their reservation, their grandmother, in this case, the potential for just catastrophic failure, it escalates exponentially. So as we close this deep dive, maybe consider this thought for yourself. The source material clearly identifies these systemic vulnerabilities, particularly around missing person protocols for kids in group homes.
Right.
Given Emily's documented history, her distress, her consistent attempts to get back to the reservation, what specific policy mandates might have made a difference? Maybe something like immediate same-day notification of next of kin for any child placed outside their home community, or a mandatory reassessment after the very first time they run away.
Could those have changed the outcome?
That's the question, isn't it? What responsibility do the protocols themselves bear when they seem to actively push a child towards the very danger they were supposed to prevent?